Welcome everyone to a long list of urban legends which you probably haven't ever heard before. I tried digging up a bunch of unknown and obscure ones, so let me know if it's your first time hearing these or if you guys have already heard them. And just before we begin, consider subscribing if you haven't already since it helps the channel out. Anyways, let's get straight into the video now with the first entry. Selene Delgado Lopez. Selene Delgado Lopez is the name of a supposed missing girl from Mexico in the late 1990s to early 2000s and is the subject of an urban legend that revolves around some strange occurrences ever since her first appearance on a broadcast Mexican TV channel Canal 5, as well as the mysterious circumstances regarding her single photo. Basically, Canal 5 around midnight would often air a broadcast called Servicio a la Comunidad, a community service broadcast listing the names of missing people in hopes of their whereabouts being reported to the authorities by the viewers. However, in 2001, one missing person stood out among the rest. That person is Selene Delgado Lopez, who was 18 at the time of her disappearance. No information is known about her other than her name, age, and the location of her disappearance in Mexico City compared to the rest of the missing people's bios that were greatly detailed. The legend began though when viewers allegedly felt uncomfortable and afraid because of the bizarre nature of her photo. Some even claim that as soon as she appears on the screen, the TV channel freezes for a few minutes and even glitches out before the broadcast abruptly cuts to static. As a result, an early urban legend spread, claiming that Selene had died and that her spirit haunted Canal 5 whenever her picture appeared on the broadcast, while others claimed that her picture was simply cursed. However, these paranormal claims were not really taken seriously and treated like a ghost story to scare others. Rumors, though, soon began to spread that because of her uncanny appearance and generic expression, she is not a real person and that her photo is AI generated. This led to experts digging deeper and discovering that no public record of Selene Delgado's disappearance was even ever found, hence the spread of a new and definitive urban legend about her. This added on to the alleged claims of Canal 5 freezing and glitching out whenever she appeared and prompted many hoax videos to be uploaded online depicting the glitching and other bizarre and surreal imagery overtaking Canal 5. An image was made around the same time Selene reportedly disappeared that is actually a composite of Derek Todd Lee, aka the band Rogue Slayer, but has since become associated with Selene because of the facial proportions of this composite being very similar to that of Selene's face. Some have even suggested that this was one of the templates used to create Selene's photo. And a group of internet people called Florissita Dreams made the same claim, supposedly proving this by using a 3D modeling program demonstrating that Selene's face was actually made from a mix of other images of both real people and other composites. According to them, Selene's face is too similar to these images to be real, and her photo was constructed using features from various spaces. If that's true, then that means the broadcasters of the program intentionally chose to include this fake person in their segment. This picture though certainly left a lasting impression on everyone who saw it, so it's possible it was included as a sort of warning to all of their young viewers to stay vigilant and safe. Fast forward to the 2010s though, Canal 5's Twitter page would often upload strange and bizarre clips referencing Selene, fueling the belief that she is a hoax created by Canal 5 themselves to scare viewers. In 2020, the urban legend re-emerged after the discovery of a Facebook page of a middle-aged woman named Selene Delgado Lopez. Users discovered to their horror that they had already been added as her friend despite having no connection to her nor adding her. To make matters worse though, there was no option on her profile to even unfriend her. People claim that she is friends with everyone on Facebook and that her profile is maybe haunted. As a result, her profile was shared 126,000 times by those who were spooked and concerned. However, it was later revealed that the woman is simply an ordinary person who shares the same name with the missing person, and that she had actually changed her Facebook privacy settings, removing the Add Friend button from her profile. It's also worth noting that it's impossible to have more than 5,000 friends on Facebook, and because of the constant harassment she received, she changed her profile to private, which remains so to this very day. But there's several theories about the true nature of Selene Delgado Lopez. One theory suggests that she was an actual missing person and her lack of information is simply because of a lack of resources and effort from the authorities, as there was a bunch of people reported missing in Mexico every month during that time. It's also worth noting that a large number of children, adolescents, and young adults such as her were runaways living on the street with little to no identification. Another theory suggests that because of the poor quality of the TV cable at the time, especially in Mexico, it's highly plausible that the glitches did in fact occur during the broadcast because of the technical issues. Some believe that Selene Delgado Lopez wasn't actually a real person but was instead a fake person or urban legend created by Canal 5 to scare their viewers, as well as spread awareness of safety and vigilance towards the young people in Mexico. This theory is backed up by Canal 5's blatant referencing of her in their social media platforms. Another theory suggests that Selene Delgado Lopez wasn't a real person and was instead a fake person created by a prankster who submitted her fake picture and profile to Canal 5 for them to include in the broadcast. This theory is also backed up by the fact that Canal 5 kept including her picture in the broadcast for years, as based on their knowledge, she was still missing. Minky Momo. Magical Princess Minky Momo, created in 1982, is an early example of the magical girl genre, made during a time when this genre was primarily aimed at children. The series predated the famous Sailor Moon by a decade. The show was produced by Ashi Pro Studio, a young company at the time, and the story basically revolves around a magical girl from the dream realm of Fenalinsula. In the first episode, Momo arrives on Earth and seamlessly integrates into human society using her magical abilities. She casts a spell to convince a childless married couple that she is their daughter. For nearly a year, Minky Momo adhered to the typical magical girl formula. Momo used her powers for good, performing various deeds that keep the hopes and dreams of humans alive. She was supported by magical friends in these endeavors. Despite the show's success, though indicated by 10% rating share higher than the current popular shows like One Piece, there were underlying conflicts. The merchandise associated with the show didn't sell as well as expected, causing financial issues. This conflict between the creators and the funders led to a lot of tension. As a result, the creators, frustrated by the lack of support despite the show's popularity, produced episode 46 out of spite. In this episode, Momo loses her magical gem, the source of her powers, rendering her just an ordinary girl. Like many superhero stories, Momo's loss of powers presents a new set of challenges. Despite this setback though, she remains positive and ready to face the world without her magic. However, in a shocking twist, Momo is hit by a truck in the following episode and dies. This event is depicted in a non-graphic but still emotionally powerful way, with the imagery of Momo's shadow being overtaken by the trucks and toys scattered on the road. The narrative then takes an unexpected turn as Momo is reincarnated as a human girl, born to the couple she had been living with as a magical girl. Despite this dramatic storyline though, the subsequent episodes seem to ignore the previous events, almost as if a reset button had been pressed. Minky Momo continues with her powers intact. This odd narrative shift likely resulted from the creators' obligation to continue producing episodes even though they had intended for the series to end with Momo's death and reincarnation. And the part of the urban legend is the episode where Momo loses her life aired around the same time an earthquake warning was issued. This timing led to a persistent rumor or legend that the traumatic events in the episode generated negative energy, which in turn caused sort of a curse, causing the earthquake. Although this connection is purely speculative though, the coincidence is pretty notable. The final episode of Minky Momo aired on May 26, 1983. On this day, the Sea of Japan earthquake struck. When the series was rerun in 1995, another devastating earthquake, the Kobe earthquake, occurred. This connection between the show's broadcast and earthquakes has fueled the legend that the show is cursed, since, there's a lot of times they happened. Hairy Hands. The legend of the Hairy Hands centers around a stretch of road in Dartmoor, Devon, where an unusual number of motor vehicle accidents occurred in the early 20th century. This road, now known as the B3212, runs through Postbridge. Basically, according to the legend, disembodied hands appear suddenly to grab the steering wheel of a car or the handlebars of a motorcycle, forcing the vehicle off the road. In some versions, the hands are invisible. Since around 1910, drivers and cyclists have reported strange accidents on this road. They often describe their vehicles swerving violently, as if something had suddenly taken control of the wheels. Most of these incidents ended with the vehicle running into a verge, leaving the victims unharmed. The legend gained wider attention though in June 1921 when E.H. Helby, the medical officer for Dartmoor prison, died after losing control of his motorcycle. 2 young girls riding in the sidecar had survived. Weeks later, a coach driver lost control, injuring several passengers. Then, on August 26, 1921, an army captain reported that invisible hands forced his motorcycle off the road. This incident drew national media attention. In Michael Williams' book Supernatural Dartmoor, journalist Rufus Endel shared his own encounter. He claimed that while driving near Post Bridge, he felt hands grip the steering wheel and had to fight for control. He avoided a crash and the hands had disappeared. Endel asked Williams not to publish the story until after his death to avoid ridicule. The legend is not only limited to moving vehicles though. In 1924, a woman camping with her husband reported seeing a hairy hand trying to enter her caravan. The hand retreated though when she made the sign of the cross. Explanations for the hairy hands sort of vary. Some local versions suggest that the hands belonged to a man who died in an accident on the road. Skeptics, though, attribute the accidents to drivers unfamiliar with the area navigating narrow, or maybe just losing control or misjudging the road. Investigations following the media coverage found that the road surface camber was dangerously high in places, leading to many of the accidents. The road was subsequently altered. The legend has also appeared in media, including the BBC Radio 4 play The Hairy Hand of Dartmoor by Michael Mixtay and mentions on various comedy panel shows like QI and The Last Leg. Black Flash. The legend of the Black Flash began with children in Provincetown, Massachusetts in 1939. It's said that they came home frightened, describing a monster that appeared out of nowhere, all in black, growling, and then disappearing in a flash. Despite their insistence on the occurrence though, adults did not believe them until Maria Costa encountered the same creature one night. It said she was walking home when an unusually tall figure dressed in black jumped out from the bushes. It had glowing blue eyes, large silver ears, and could leap like a gazelle. Maria ran into a nearby coffee shop screaming for help. The men inside rushed out to look for the creature but found nothing. The police, initially amused, took her statement but didn't give it much credence. However, over the next week, more residents started coming up with their own encounters. This figure, called the Black Flash, was said to appear suddenly, scaring people before vanishing. Some call it the Provincetown Phantom, others the Devil of the Dunes, but the name that stuck was the Black Flash because of its long black cape and ability to disappear quickly. And as sightings increased, the police began to investigate more seriously. Calls came from different parts of town within minutes of each other, suggesting that the Black Flash moved at impossible speeds. This phenomenon added to the already tense atmosphere of 1939, which was a year marked by strange events and global unrest. A sea monster washed ashore earlier that year, which was later identified as a decomposing basking shark, and there was also an arsonist causing panic until his arrest in September. News of the Black Flash then quickly spread, with radio reports picking up the story reminiscent of the previous year's Orson Welles' War of the Worlds broadcast that caused widespread panic. Despite the dramatic reports though, the local newspaper, the Provincetown Advocate, treated the matter with skepticism, suggesting it was more likely a prank than a supernatural occurrence. Police Chief Anthony Tarvers later revealed that the Black Flash was actually a group of local teenagers playing a Halloween prank. It said they used a long black cape and a floor sifter to create the creature's distinctive appearance. The prank ended after the police spoke with the boys and their families. The legend though still persisted, remaining a part of the local tradition until 1984 when Robert Ellis Cahill included it in his book New England's Mad and Mysterious Men. This brought renewed attention to the story and the tale began to spread again. Some researchers like Theo Pagemans found similarities between the Black Flash and the Victorian-era legend of Spring-Heeled Jack, a phantom known for his black cape, glowing eyes, and ability to leap great heights. Pageman's research aimed to separate fact from fiction, revealing that the Black Flash incidents only occurred for a few weeks in 1939, contrary to the embellished versions that claimed a longer period of activity. Despite efforts to uncover the truth though, the identities of those involved in the prank still remain unknown. Police Chief Tarvers took the secret to his grave, believing the town was too small to expose the pranksters without causing embarrassment. Theories about who is behind the Black Flash continue to circulate though, but no concrete evidence has surfaced. Boston Lemur. The Boston Lemur is an urban legend that emerged in the summer of 2008, centered around a sighting reported by Bill James, a senior advisor for the Boston Red Sox. Basically, James claimed to have encountered a really weird primate-like creature while walking home from Fenway Park. This incident occurred late at night when the streets were deserted, and James found himself alone. James initially mistook the animal for a cat because of its size and movement. However, upon closer inspection, he realized it was something far more unusual. The creature had enormous eyes positioned on the sides of its speckled gray head, a feature that immediately distinguished it from any known common animal. Its face also resembled that of a pug with a flat, expressive look. The creature's long tail, which was reminiscent of a broom handle, further set it apart from other known animals he was familiar with. And James described the creature's movement as he quoted an odd sashaying motion. During the sighting, James observed the creature for what he described as probably 6 or 7 times as long as the period that a flyball is in the air. This detailed observation allowed him to notice even more weird behaviors. At one point, the creature used its tail as a lever to lift its hind legs over a stick lying in the road, showcasing an unusual degree of dexterity and intelligence. Eventually, the creature scuttled under a parked car, disappearing from James's view. In the aftermath of the sighting, several theories emerged to explain what James had encountered. One possibility is that the creature was a cryptid, an undiscovered species that has managed to evade scientific detection. Cryptozoologists often investigate such sightings, hoping to find evidence of unknown animals. Another theory suggests that the creature could have been an escaped lemur from a zoo or private collection. This idea was investigated, but all lemurs in the local zoo were accounted for, leaving the possibility that it could have been someone's escaped pet. And there was actually a previous sighting of a similar creature in 2002, about 20 miles southwest of Boston in Sherborne. On a rainy day in March, filmmaker Andrew Mudge reported seeing a strange lemur-like dog on his parents' horse farm. Mudge described the creature as a smaller, skinnier version of a Tasmanian wolf, which hopped out of a hole in the barn door and headed towards the woods. This sighting, which occurred years before James's encounter, suggested that the Boston lemur might not be an isolated incident but part of a series of sightings in the region. Handprint of the Carbon County Jail. In Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, there's a persistent legend about a handprint in cell number 17 of the old Carbon County Jail. This handprint has been the source of fascination all the way since 1877, left by a man who was hanged for crimes he insisted he didn't commit. The legend comes from the fact the handprint has resisted all attempts to remove it, including cleaning, repainting, and replastering. Each time it is covered, the handprint reappears within days, continuing to tell its story. The legend is rooted in the coal mining industry of the late 19th century in Pennsylvania. The coal barons exploited the miners, who were mostly Irish and Welsh, making them work long hours for low wages. The miners had to buy their supplies from the company store, which kept them in debt. This led to the formation of the Molly Maguires, a secret society of miners who resisted through acts of sabotage. The coal barons, using their wealth and influence, orchestrated trials to eliminate the Molly Maguires, accusing them of crimes. These trials were often biased, with questionable evidence. One of the men involved was imprisoned in cell 17. During his trial, he insisted on his innocence, but he was sentenced to death regardless. On the day of his execution, he slapped his hand, dirty from the cell floor, against the wall and declared, "This is the hand of an innocent man." He was eventually hanged that day, but his handprint remained, a final protest. Over the years, many attempts were made to remove the handprint. The cell was scrubbed, repainted, and replastered, but each time the handprint reappeared. The handprint seemed to be a reminder of the man's declaration of innocence, defying all efforts to be forgotten. Today, the handprint is a feature of the old jail museum in the area there. Visitors to the museum can see the handprint and learn about its history. The museum offers tours that includes a viewprint of the hand, as well as a National Enquirer article that tells the story. The article shows the nature of the handprint's persistence and the legend that surrounds it. The story of the mysterious handprint of the Carbon County Jail is more than just a ghost story though. It basically reflects a time when the powerful exploited the powerless, leading to acts of resistance and suppression. Belmez Faces. The Belmez Faces, also known as the Faces of Belmez, is a paranormal phenomenon that began in 1971 in a private house in Belmez de la Morlanda, Jaén, Andalucía, Spain. Residents claimed that images of faces appeared on the concrete floor of the Perea family home. These faces have been responsible for attracting a large number of sightseers to the town. The phenomenon started when Maria Gómez Camara, a resident of the house, claimed that a human face formed spontaneously on her kitchen floor. Her husband, Juan Perea, and their son Miguel destroyed the image with a pickaxe, laying new concrete. However, a new face appeared, prompting the mayor to intervene and have the floor cut out for study. The home, known as La Casa de las Caras, soon became a tourist attraction. Over the next 30 years, the Perea family claimed that various faces continue to appear and disappear, each with different shapes, sizes, and expressions. Some paranormal investigators believe the phenomenon is a thoughtographic effect produced subconsciously by the deceased former owner of the house, Maria Camara. Skeptical researchers, however, have conducted tests and believe the faces are fabrications. In 1993, Luis Ruiz Noguez noted the presence of pigments used in paint, suggesting the use of paint in creating the faces. Manuel Martin Serrano, a sociologist, suggested that the phenomenon was a hoax perpetrated for financial gain. Jose Luis Jordan, vice president of the Spanish Society of Parapsychology, led a study that pointed to possible fraud, including the use of chemicals to create the images. Despite the skepticism though, some believers maintain that the faces have a paranormal origin. Hans Bender and Germán de Argumasa, researchers of the Belmez case, suggested that changes in the face's configurations during a sealed period indicated their paranormal nature. However, neither published extensive reports on their findings. In 2014, a forensic analysis was even conducted by a team led by chemical engineer Jose Javier Gasnea and forensic criminalist Luis Alamanacos. They concluded that the images were not made with paint and showed no external manipulation, although Almanacos was unable to replicate the faces using various methods. After Maria Gomez's death in 2004, new faces were claimed to have appeared, but these were debunked as hoaxes. Journalists Javier Cabanales and Francisco Menes published the book in 2007, exposing the history of the scam and identifying Maria's son, Diego Perea, as a likely creator of the faces. Acrobatic Sarah. Acrobatic Sarah is a mysterious urban legend that describes a tall, lanky woman dressed entirely in red, with a wide-brimmed hat and no shoes. Her distinctive feature is her silky, smooth hair, from which her name derives, with Sarah being used for the swishing sound of her hair. Her face lacks eyes, instead having black holes, and she has a smile that extends from ear to ear. Also, it said her left arm appears injured, with multiple slashes. Sightings of Acrobatic Sarah are often reported in busy urban areas. She's seen in life-threatening situations like dancing on top of tall buildings, moving erratically on distant rooftops, and leaping from them like an acrobat, only to vanish just before hitting the ground. She's also seen darting through heavy traffic areas. Witnessing her is considered bad luck, as she is known to cause accidents. It's said that if you see her leap, you too will soon have an accident or go missing. The legend of Acrobatic Sarah can be traced back to message boards like 2chan, starting in late 2008. The origin story suggests that she's the ghost of someone who took their own life by throwing themselves from a roof in Fukushima Prefecture around 2003, though specifics on this case are unknown. Some believe she's related to or an alternate telling of the Hachisaka Kusama story or the Kujisaka Onna because of her appearance and behavior. Over time though, people shared their own encounters with similar ghostly jumpers and related stories from across Japan, leading to the creation of a yokai and legend associated with falling victims and ghostly jumpers. The legend suggests that if you have ever experienced dizziness while looking up at a tall building or seen someone behaving recklessly on a rooftop, you might have witnessed someone who wasn't really there. And in December 2022, Acrobatic Sarah even appeared on the television show Scary Stories with a Mouth, which increased her popularity and solidified her status as a unique yokai and urban legend. She even appeared in some manga like Hell Teacher Noob and Dandadan. And the story also has some similarities with the Lady in Red, which is a well-known ghost figure from Vancouver, BC, who's often seen dancing on the 14th floor of the Fairmont Hotel. The Lady in Red is said to have been a car accident victim, which parallels the themes of sudden and tragic death present in the legend of Acrobatic Sarah. Black Ambulance. The Black Ambulance is an urban legend that took hold in Czechoslovakia during the 1980s. This legend revolves around the widespread belief that a mysterious black ambulance was roaming the streets, abducting people to harvest their organs for illegal trafficking. The fear and paranoia generated by this legend were significant, impacting the daily lives of many citizens. During the 1980s, descriptions of the black ambulance were consistent. It was an unmarked vehicle with tinted windows, often seen driving around residential areas or near hospitals. The vehicle was believed to be operated by a secret organization involved in organ trafficking. Their targets were said to be unsuspecting individuals, especially those who were alone or vulnerable, like homeless people or individuals walking late at night. Reports of encounters with the black ambulance though sort of varied, but there were common elements in the stories. Witnesses claimed to have seen people being forcibly taken inside the vehicle or seeing the ambulance parked in secluded areas with suspicious activities taking place. Some accounts even described hearing screams or cries for help coming from inside the vehicle. These stories then quickly spread through word of mouth, fueled by rumors and sensationalized media reports. The legend even led to a heightened vigilance among the population. People began avoiding walking alone at night and took extra precautions when venturing out. Despite the widespread belief in the black ambulance though, there was no concrete evidence to support its existence. Investigations conducted by authorities at the time failed to uncover any credible information or substantiate the claims made by witnesses. It was widely believed that the urban legend was a product of collective paranoia and fear rather than an actual phenomenon. Several theories though have been proposed to explain the origin of this urban legend. One theory suggests that it may have been a manifestation of societal anxieties during a period of political repression and social unrest in Czechoslovakia. The 1980s marked a time of political tension under communist rule, and rumors and conspiracy theories often flourished in such environments. People living under repressive regimes are often prone to believing in sinister plots and secret organizations, as these narratives provide a way to make sense of the uncertainties and fears they experience. Another theory suggests that the legend may have been influenced by similar urban legends or folklore from other countries. Stories of mysterious vehicles involved in illegal activities like organ trafficking have been reported in various parts of the world. It's possible that these stories influenced the creation of the black ambulance legend in Czechoslovakia. The idea of a vehicle prowling the streets and abducting people taps into the fears about personal safety and the vulnerability of individuals in urban environments. Belgian Tunnel. The Belgian Tunnel is a motorway tunnel in Switzerland and was opened in 1966 and stretches for 3,180 meters. In January 1981, though, a modern myth emerged involving a spectral figure known as the White Woman, or Weiße Frau of the Belgian Tunnel. This ghostly hitchhiker, described as an old woman dressed in white, was said to appear suddenly in front of drivers. Initially, she was not recognized as a ghost, and drivers would stop to offer her a ride. According to the legend, she sometimes even spoke to them. The first recorded sightings in this area, however, involved a male ghost. Reports from June 1980 described a male hitchhiker who would mysteriously vanish from moving vehicles despite the high speeds at which they traveled. These initial reports paved the way for the more famous sightings of the White Woman. Towards the end of 1980 though, reports of the White Woman began to surface, becoming more frequent around the Belgian Tunnel. On January 6, 1981, the Swiss tabloid Blick published an article about these sightings, bringing the story to a more wider audience. Other media outlets quickly followed suit, and the Basel police received numerous phone calls from individuals claiming to have seen the ghost. The phenomenon even gained enough traction to become a popular subject during the 1981 Shrove Tuesday Carnival, with many locals discussing the sightings. One notable account involved two female jurists who picked up a pale, clumsy middle-aged woman in Eptingen. She seemed really unwell, and when they asked if she was feeling better, she replied, "No, unfortunately not. I am not well at all. Something really awful is going to happen. Something very dreadful." When the jurors looked back at the rear seat, the woman had vanished without a trace. The Legend of the White Woman shares a lot of similarities too with hitchhiker tales from the region. For instance, a re-edited edition of the book Baselbider Sagen includes stories of similar spectral figures, like the Heide Castle's Lady, the Maiden on the Go, and the Grey Woman in Zensgen. And these hitchhiker stories are not really confined to the Belgian tunnel. For example, an article in the 1981 edition of Schweizer Volkskunde describes visitations in other Swiss tunnels too. These stories often serve as cautionary tales which warn travelers of potential dangers and the mysteries that lurk on lonely roads. But yeah, despite the numerous accounts and widespread belief in the White Woman's existence, no concrete evidence has ever been found to substantiate the claims. Skeptics argue that these sightings are products of imagination, fueled by the power of suggestion and the eerie atmosphere of the tunnel. But the legend, though, still persists. Saki Sanobashi. Saki Sanobashi is an urban legend from Japan that has caught the attention of internet communities for years. Known also by the name Go for a Punch, this legend revolves around an alleged anime series that is both elusive and disturbing. The story of Saki Sanobashi suggests it's a lost piece of media, yet its supposed content and the mystery surrounding it have gained a lot of speculation and interest online. According to the legend, Saki Sanobashi was a psychological horror anime series that aired briefly in the late 1980s or early 1990s. The anime purportedly depicted a group of girls trapped in an underground bathroom facility. These girls were subjected to various forms of torture and psychological torment. The series is said to be extremely graphic and featured really intense scenes of gore, violence, self-mutilation, and more. This content allegedly pushed the boundaries of what is considered acceptable even for horror genres, leading to its suppression and eventual disappearance. The origin story of Saki Sanobashi claims that the anime was created by an unknown artist or group of artists who intended it as a social commentary on the darker aspects of society. However, because of its controversial content, the series was never officially released. Only a few episodes were reportedly produced before the project was just shut down. These episodes are rumored to have been leaked onto the dark web or distributed among collectors of rare and obscure media. The legend gained a lot more traction though in 2004 when an anonymous user posted on an internet forum claiming to have seen the entire series. This user provided detailed descriptions of the anime, recounting various disturbing scenes and offering insights into the characters and plot. Despite the vivid descriptions though, the anonymous user didn't provide any concrete evidence to support their claims. This lack of proof led many to question the authenticity of the story, though it didn't stop the legend from spreading. In the years that followed, numerous individuals have attempted to uncover more information about Saki Sanobashi. Extensive online searches and discussions have taken place, with many dedicated to finding any verifiable evidence or footage from the supposed anime. Despite these efforts though, no concrete evidence has surfaced, leading many to believe that this media is nothing more than an elaborate hoax or a fabricated urban legend. An important development in the legend though that I wanted to add, since people will probably talk about it, occurred when a Reddit user claiming to be the original poster of the story admitted that the entire tale was a fabrication. This user, posting under a throwaway account, confessed that they had made up the story as a joke on 4chan. They explained that the post was meant to troll a thread asking about the scariest things found on the deep web. The user never expected the story to gain such traction and was surprised to see how seriously it was taken by the community. Despite this confession though, some users remain skeptical, preferring to believe in the legend rather than accept the confession as genuine. Let me know what you guys think. Screaming Jenny. Screaming Jenny is an urban legend from Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, that centers around a woman named Jenny who, despite her kind and generous nature, fell on hard terms and ended up living in an old storage shed near the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad tracks. Jenny's life was marked by hardship. She was alone, penniless, and often cold and hungry. One fateful evening, though, she was sitting by a fire, trying to warm herself and sipping broth to avoid hunger. As she sat there, a spark from the fire caught her shirt though, and within moments, the flames began to spread. Desperate, Jenny tried to extinguish the fire with the broth, but her efforts were in vain. Engulfed in flames, she ran screaming for help down the railroad tracks, heading toward the train station. In her panic and agony, she didn't notice an oncoming train. Tragically, Jenny was struck and killed. The aftermath of this tragic event gave rise to the legend of the Screaming Jenny. It's said that shortly after her death, sightings of her ghost began to occur. Train engineers reported seeing a flaming figure running along the tracks where Jenny had died. These spectral encounters were always marked by the figure's desperate screams for help, echoing the moments before her tragic death. Engineers who witnessed this ghostly apparition would try to stop their trains or find her body, but upon searching the area, they would find nothing. According to the legend, Jenny's spirit returns every year on the anniversary of her death. Her ghost is said to relive her final moments, running down the tracks in flames, screaming for help, and ultimately disappearing without a trace. This haunting replay of her demise has become a chilling reminder of the tragic event that took her life and the urban legend surrounding it. Inokashira Park Curse. The Inokashira Park Curse is an urban legend that has become a notable part of Tokyo, Japan's folklore. This legend warns couples against taking boat rides on the lake in Inokashira Park, suggesting that doing so will lead to the end of their relationship. The curse is attributed to the goddess Belmez, who is believed to oversee the park from her shrine near the pond. Inokashira Park is known for its serene lake and green surroundings, and the park setting with swan-shaped pedal boats and rowboats available for rent makes it a popular spot for couples seeking a romantic outing. However, the legend of the Inokashira Park curse casts a shadow over this otherwise peaceful location. The story of the curse revolves around Belmez, a goddess associated with water, music, and elegance. According to the legend, Belmez harbors jealousy towards couples who display their love on her lake. The curse suggests that any couple who rides a boat together in the lake will soon experience the end of their relationship. This belief has persisted for over 200 years, becoming deeply ingrained in the local culture there. The legend serves as a cautionary tale for couples visiting Inokashira Park, and because of this, many choose to avoid boat rides on the lake to prevent the possibility of invoking the curse. Accounts of couples who experience relationship troubles after visiting the park reinforce this legend, and whether these stories are based on real events or part of the myth is unclear, but they still help maintain the legend's presence. The Red Car. The Red Car is a well-known urban legend from Mexico that involves a scarlet red car that travels at night between Mexico City and Cuernavaca. The car is driven by a group of witches who search for men, especially those walking alone on dark streets. Inside the car, there are usually 2 to 5 beautiful women who entice men with promises to fulfill their dreams. Men who accept the offer and get into the car are later found lifeless by the roadside, having been subjected to a dark occult ritual and sacrificed to the devil. The legend of the red car serves as basically a cautionary tale, warning men to be wary of the mysterious vehicle. The witches use their charm and allure to lure men into the car, only to subject them to sinister rituals later. The bodies of the victims are often discovered with bruises, cuts, and arcane symbols, suggesting a ritualistic sacrifice. These details add to the fear surrounding the legend and makes it a powerful story in the people's imaginations. According to the details of the story though, the red car primarily targets men who are alone at night. The witches are said to drive through lonely streets looking for potential victims, and once a man gets in the car, he is taken to a secluded location where the witches perform their dark rituals. The victims' bodies are later found with signs of torture and mysterious symbols. The story has also been told and retold in various forms, from local anecdotes to detailed accounts, each adding different twists to the legend. In addition to the main story, there's beliefs related to the color of the car and traffic citations. It's commonly thought that drivers of red cars are pulled over more frequently by police officers. Studies have shown that while red cars do receive a disproportionate number of traffic citations compared to the presence on the road, white cars actually receive more traffic citations overall in the United States. White cars make up 25% of the traffic population but receive 19% of all traffic citations, while red cars constitute 40% of vehicles but receive 16% of traffic citations. Gray cars are said to account for 6% of vehicles but receive 10% of total traffic citations. This phenomenon aligns with concepts like selection bias and the Baader-Meinhof phenomenon, where noticing something leads to seeing it more frequently. Tiny Uncle. The Tiny Uncle, also known as Chisai Oji-san, is an urban legend from Japan that describes a tiny creature that resembles an average balding middle-aged man, but stands at a diminutive size of about 10 to 50 centimeters, similar to that of a mouse. Chisai Oji-san is often associated with good luck and success, and encounters with him are believed to bring positive outcomes. These tiny beings are said to appear more frequently to children, but can also show up before tired adults who are overworked or unwell, offering advice and comfort similar to a loving parent. Despite their generally positive nature though, these beings can sometimes exhibit mischievous behavior or use foul language. They're known to be elusive and fast-moving, disappearing quickly when spotted with a camera or phone. The legend of Chisai Oji-san gained popularity though around 2009 to 2010, when numerous celebrities shared stories of encountering this figure. Over time, the narrative expanded to include mentions of Chisai Oji-san's wife, and even suggestions of an entire civilization of tiny people. Some reports even claim sightings dating back to 1972, with grainy photo evidence from Akita Prefecture. The legend serves as a reminder for individuals to take care of themselves and make positive lifestyle changes if they ever find themselves in situations where they start seeing these tiny men darting around. The origin of the Chisai Oji-san legend can be traced back to various accounts and stories shared by people who claim to have seen these figures. Initially, the stories centered around children who would report seeing small men running around their homes or gardens. These stories often depicted the tiny men as helpful and kind, offering advice or small tokens of luck to the children. As the legend spread though, adults began reporting sightings as well, particularly during times of stress or illness. These adult encounters often describe the tiny men as comforting and supportive, providing guidance during difficult times. As the legend grew though, more details were added to the story. Some accounts describe Chisai Oji-san as wearing traditional Japanese clothing, while others depict him in more modern attire. The stories also began to include mentions of a community of tiny people, suggesting that Chisai Oji-san was not alone, but part of a larger group. This idea added more interest to the legend, since people began to speculate about the existence of a hidden world of tiny beings living alongside humans. And the popularity was even further fueled by media coverage and celebrity endorsements. Several well-known Japanese celebrities shared their own encounters with the men like we talked about earlier, and this led to some credibility to the stories and sparked more interest about them. Television shows too and magazines featured stories about Chisai Oji-san, and the legend became a popular topic of conversation. Langville, Montana. Langville, Montana is a mysterious urban legend with the tale of a town that supposedly vanished overnight. The story gained more attention after the 2016 remake of Ghostbusters, which referenced Langville with the line, "The entire town of Langville, Montana goes missing." This line spurred many to search for evidence of the town, though none can be found. Some believe the search began only after the movie, while others claim the rumors have been circulating much longer. Langville is described as a small rural town that mysteriously disappeared in the early 2000s. According to the legend, all records, photos, and online discussions about Langville also vanished. This has led to a fascinating interplay between disbelief and belief, with some Montanans swearing they remember Langville existing, invoking the concept of the Mandela effect. Despite extensive searches though, no concrete evidence of Langville's existence has surfaced. There's no historical records or photographs of the town, and it's not mentioned in any official documents or history books. This absence of evidence though has only fueled the legend, and it's still an interesting urban legend altogether. Kinderhook Blob. The Kinderhook Blob is an urban legend that emerged from New York in the 1960s. The story revolves around a mysterious floating blob-like creature that was encountered by at least 6 witnesses over several decades. This creature, described as both terrifying and elusive, has become a notable part of the local folklore there. The first known encounter with the Kinderhook blob occurred in 1962. A 10-year-old boy named Hallenbeck and his 7-year-old cousin Cherry were walking in the woods behind their house when they heard a high-pitched whistle. Searching for the source of the sound, Hallenbeck saw a white object peering at him from behind a nearby pine tree. He described it as peering, despite the fact that it had no visible eyes. Frightened, the children ran back to the Hallenbecks' parents' home. For the next 2 years, there were no further reports of the creature. However, in 1964, an unnamed man hiking through the woods encountered what he described as a big white blob floating toward him. The sight was so terrifying that he jumped over a 6-foot wide pond to escape. Determined to confront the beast, he returned with a friend, armed with shovels and pitchforks. When a skeptical friend saw the white shape hovering through the trees, he turned pale and the pair fled, abandoning their weapons. And another encounter occurred in either 1964 or 1978, depending on the source. Two 14-year-old boys, Barry Scott and Russell Lee, were camping when they heard tramping noises outside their tent. Peeking out, they saw a figure resembling the previous descriptions of the blob. Barry described it as bell-shaped, while Russell compared it to the Virgin Mary. They noted that it seemed to float more than walk. The most recent reported sighting though was in 2017, when locals Owen Farley and Anthony Malawski were taking a late night walk. They described a sudden drop in temperature and heard a loud high-pitched screech before seeing a white blob, around 7 feet tall, floating toward them at high speed. This encounter left them running in fear, and it just went on to fuel the legend. Ryomen Sukuna. Ryomen Sukuna is a figure in Japanese folklore and urban legends, known for his unique and terrifying form. The name Ryomen Sukuna translates to two-faced Sukuna, a reference to his depiction as a mummified being with 2 heads. Ryomen Sukuna is described as a powerful sorcerer who lived during the Heian period, which lasted from 794 to 1185. He was notorious for his immense magical abilities and an insatiable thirst for power, leaving a trail of devastation in his wake. His malevolence and atrocities he committed made him a figure of terror in ancient Japan. The story of his downfall, though, is as dramatic as his life. According to legend, a group of brave warriors decided to put an end to Sukuna's reign of terror. They engaged him in a fierce battle and eventually succeeded in defeating him. To ensure that he could no longer cause harm, they sealed his spirit within a mummified body, which they buried deep underground in a secret location. Despite this though, the legend holds that Sukuna's malevolent spirit still lingers within the mummy. Urban legends suggest that disturbing the resting place of Ryomen Sukuna brings dire consequences. Those who touch or open the tomb are said to be cursed with misfortune, illness, or even death. The curse has become a cautionary tale, being that it warns against the disturbance of ancient and powerful spirits. In modern times though, Ryomen Sukuna has also gained renewed interest through the popular manga and anime series Jujutsu Kaisen, which is something interesting I wanted to add about this legend. Faceless Woman of Hawaii. The tale of the Faceless Woman, or Mujina, in Hawaii is one of the most enduring urban legends from there. Originating from Japan, the legend of Mujina was brought to Hawaii by Japanese immigrants in the 19th and 20th century. The Faceless Woman is said to be a shape-shifting creature that can transform into a human figure completely devoid of facial features. Over the years, this ghostly figure has become a part of the folklore there, haunting various public places like restrooms, shopping malls, and movie theaters. One of the most famous encounters with the Faceless Woman occurred in 1959 at a drive-in theater in Honolulu. A woman who ventured into the restroom late at night found herself standing next to another woman combing her long hair in front of the mirror. As she approached, she realized with horror that the woman had no face. Panicked, she fled the restroom and spread the story among the local community. This incident became well known and contributed to the growing legend of the Faceless Woman in Hawaii. And in the 1980s, another well-known sighting took place at the Ala Moana shopping center. A shopper entered the woman's restroom and saw a woman in a red dress standing by the sink. As she drew nearer, she was horrified to discover that the woman had no facial features. She then quickly left the restroom, and her story soon became another part of the legend. These accounts of the Faceless Woman are not just limited to just a few incidents. Over the years, numerous stories have emerged from different parts of Hawaii. Some people even claim to have seen her ghostly figure at the Dole Cannery movie theater in Honolulu. Others report sightings on secluded beaches or other isolated locations. Each story adds to the mystery though and fear surrounding this figure, and the origins can be traced back to the Japanese folklore of the Mujina. In Japan, they were a type of shape-shifting spirit that can take on various forms, including that of a faceless human. When Japanese immigrants brought their culture and stories to Hawaii, the legend of the Mujina transformed into the faceless woman, adapting to its new environment and becoming part of the local folklore. Some theories suggest that the faceless woman is a restless spirit trapped between the worlds of the living and the dead. Others believe she is an omen of doom, appearing to warn those who see her of impending misfortune. Another theory suggests that the faceless woman is a manifestation of human fears and anxieties, a reflection of our own inner demons. Belled buzzards. The belled buzzard is a creature of American folklore often seen as an omen of disaster. This bird, a common buzzard with the bell fixed to it, has a long history in the folklore of the southern United States. The belief in the belled buzzard as a singular continuous entity rather than multiple birds was widespread. The legend gained prominence in the 1880s and continued into the early 20th century. Reports of buzzards with bells though date back to the 1850s in Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia. Although sightings likely involved multiple birds, the legend evolved to refer to the belled buzzard, hinting at singularity. Early accounts describe these belled buzzards being seen in states like West Virginia, Delaware, Georgia, and South Carolina. The belled buzzard's association with disaster, though, began in 1878 in Brownsville, Tennessee, during a yellow fever epidemic. This event marked the first significant connection between the bird and a natural disaster. Prior sightings were sporadic, but the Brownsville case established the buzzard as a harbinger of doom. Following this, sightings increased in the 1880s, expanding the bird's range to include Maryland, Ohio, Kentucky, Mississippi, Texas, and New York. Articles from this period often highlighted the bird's ominous reputation. Headlines like "A Bird of Evil Omen" and "Disaster Feared with Coming of Belled Buzzard" reinforced the belief that the buzzard's appearance preceded calamity. Reports from various states cited the belled buzzard with growing frequency, each sighting contributing to the legend's persistence. And a Delaware legend reference expressed the hope that the bird would not appear in the area, fearing it might herald cholera. A Nebraskan paper described a buzzard with a bell on its neck as frightening people in Maryland who saw it as the angel of death. Claims about the belling, capture, or death of the belled buzzard were common. Given the different descriptions of bells and birds, these likely referred to different buzzards. However, such claims persisted despite ongoing sightings. An 1881 report from Missouri claimed a buzzard had been belled there, though no sightings had been reported. Another account from May 1900 claimed 3 Georgia veterans belled a buzzard in 1863. This buzzard was said to be captured in Georgia and was said to have a similar bronze bell and leather collar, suggesting it was the same bird. Yet, the claim dated nearly a decade after the first sightings, indicating it could not have been the original belled buzzard. A more elaborate story though came from the Warren Scheif in 1920 and claimed the belled buzzard had died after entangling itself in its strap. This article also claimed that the bird had been belled during the War of 1812 and had been seen at significant events since, even as far south as Peru. Hachisakusama. Hachisakusama, also known as 8 feet tall or the tall woman, is a Japanese urban legend that has become increasingly popular in recent years. The tale revolves around a mysterious and terrifying entity that's said to haunt and prey upon children, and is described as an extremely tall and slender woman, standing at about 8 feet tall. She has long, flowing black hair and wears a white dress, and her most distinctive feature is her unnaturally long limbs, which allow her to move with an uncanny grace and speed. The origins of 8 feet tall are unclear, with various versions of the legend circulating among different regions of Japan. Some believe that she was once a human who became possessed by an evil spirit, while others claim that she is a vengeful ghost seeking revenge for her past injustice. Regardless of her origins though, it's widely believed that encountering 8 feet tall can have really dire consequences. The legend states that Hachisakusama primarily targets young children, particularly those who are alone or wandering outside at dusk. She's said to approach her victims calmly and softly call out their name from a distance. As the child turns to look though, they are met with the horrifying sight of the towering figure looming over them. Those who've encountered her describe feeling an overwhelming sense of dread and terror in her presence. Some claim to have been paralyzed with fear, unable to move or scream, while others report being chased by the entity as they desperately try to escape. It's believed that those who are caught by 8 feet tall are never seen again. To protect themselves from 8 feet tall, people have developed various rituals and precautions. One common belief is that speaking about her or even uttering her name can attract her attention. Therefore, it's usually advised to refer to using her alternative names or simply avoid discussing her altogether. Also, some believe that wearing red clothing or carrying a talisman can ward off her presence. And like we talked about before, the legend has gained a lot of attention in recent years, especially through online forums and social media platforms. Numerous alleged sightings and encounters have been shared, often accompanied by chilling photographs or videos. However, it's important to note that these accounts are largely anecdotal and lack concrete evidence. So yeah, while it is a popular urban legend, it's essential to recognize that she exists solely within folklore and storytelling, and it's like a cautionary tale that warns children to be cautious and stay safe. Nonetheless though, the fear and fascination surrounding 8 feet tall continue to interest audiences from both Japan and around the world. The first known mention of her on the internet can be traced back to 2008 on a Japanese message board. The original post described a personal experience of encountering the tall woman, detailing the fear and subsequent escape. This account then quickly gained traction with other users sharing similar stories and experiences. The internet played a crucial role in spreading the legend, with various websites, blogs, and forums discussing 8 feet tall and her eerie presence.